I met a person at work who left Gaza. So they left Gaza a while back, and obviously, for confidentiality purposes, I'm not going to name the person's name, right?
Please don't name the person.
But they left, and they came because they were into the creative arts. So they were given like the opportunity to showcase their artistic talents. But they came here. But when they came here to show their stuff, COVID hit, so they weren't able to go through the exhibitions and show off their talents. So in the end, they found a job. They had to apply for, I don't know, they were seeking asylum, yeah, and they were telling me they were lucky, right? They were lucky that their profession, or at least their talents or their work, allowed them to leave the country. But they have family, and whilst I was speaking to him, he got a phone call from a relative who is over there. No, a message, not a phone call. And yeah, he was telling me how things are going on there, and he was like, he would love it if he could go back just to bring people, so he can give the opportunity to his family to come back safely as well. So, but he was saying that if he did go back, he probably would never return. The likelihood of him coming back would probably be next to very slim, especially with considering what's going on.
Yeah.
So, whilst we're talking about this, it just reminded me. Imagine if God came to him and told him, "I need you to go back. I need you to go back, share what you've experienced here, and share it with others, and try and bring others. When God could easily just do it himself. God could easily.
He does say he can make stones, even like declare his word. So it's.
So why does he need? So why does he require so much of us when he can do anything?
Yeah, no, that's true. Why does he? That's a good question. I think I've thought about it so many times, because even when you look at just in our normal day-to-day lives, like, we don't have much. Sometimes you feel inspired to donate something to someone, even though you have little as well. So you're essentially giving someone what you have, and for what, and with no. I think the hard part is you don't have any guarantee that things will be good or better once you've made this big step for God. Because let's say, I think most of us will be in the case, like, let's say we're all to just, let's say, put ourselves in your friend's shoes. Like, if God is calling us to go back to this country that's war torn, to go deliver his message. In my head, I was like, first thing that will come to my head, am I going to be safe? Am I going to, be able to, live with the necessities that I live here and all that stuff? We would want those comforts. And we see that when God is calling us, or calling, when it's in Abraham, he's taking all those comforts out, and essentially he's allowing us, or giving us the opportunity to actually, not put our trust and faith in the materialistic things we have and the materialistic comforts we know here in the world, but to actually put our trust and faith in him. And I think that's like a big step for any Christian. I wouldn't say I'm there. Definitely I'm not there yet. But to live something that you know well and love, to go into the unknown, is always anyone's worst nightmare, because everyone fears the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen. And God asking us to do this for him is an honor, but scary at the same time.
Yeah, so I agree, and when I was reading this chapter, yeah, I had never thought about it like that as well. Like, God asking us to do things when he could easily do them for himself, right? And I've always asked myself, like you said, God can ask the rocks, the stones, to declare the message if he wanted to. And people say that God, it's not that God needs our praise, needs our worship, right? One way that as a speaker I once heard, they said sometimes these things are not just it's not because God wants them or require, or he can't do it for themselves, but sometimes he calls us for these things because these things will also be good at molding us into better people.
Yeah, that's
into
true.
Better people. When you pray to God, it isn't because he needs your prayers, right? It's because prayer is more about you than it is about God, right? Prayer transforms you. It's not what you It's not what you're asking in the prayer, right?
Mhm.
It's the fact that you're going to prayer, recognizing that you cannot do things out of your own power. That's one perspective that I've heard. But
I like to challenge before to challenge that perspective.
yeah,
I don't know. Like I agree with that, perspective. Because is molding you, is like asking you to do this thing because he has a vision of who you can be. Yeah,
mhm,
and where I think I sit uneasy with that is what the molding process
is
is doing to the people around you. So let's say we're going to
well, like
Abraham.
Job's wife saying, "Curse God."
Yeah, well, I'm not saying curse God, but obviously with those, obviously going to the extreme end where you are being asked to leave your family. Going back to the story you presented you were talking about at the start, this person was leaving his family behind. You know, so it's not the case he was just going, taking his family, everything. Like he was leaving his loved ones behind, and I know it is like a calling from God for him to go do all these things. Like he feels inspired by it.
Mm.
It feels like God is talking to him to go back. But what of his family? The people that actually love him, the people that have been there through the entire thing. It feels from an outside perspective, he would look like he's abandoning his family, going into the unknown where he will potentially not come. Some people, depending who you are, what sort of, I guess, child you are, you see that as, yes, my dad actually
Abandon me.
abandoned me. Like I cannot think that daughter was actually happy about the decision of potentially not seeing the father after all the struggle they've been through. To them, like, that act alone is the parent abandoning them. So how do you reconcile God's calling with the effects that it has on the people around you? Because you have people that do a lot of things in the name of God. Like, God told me to do this, God is saying, but those actions have real world consequences to those around them. I know we're always looking heavenwards and all that stuff. So how do you reconcile that with the people around you? Is God talking to those people, telling them, actually, I've called this person, let him go. I'll take care of you. Like, is there, how do you connect that? What about all the people around? What are your thoughts?
Yo, man, that's a difficult one still, but I don't know. Honestly, like, I can only speak from my experiences, right? I think sometimes, and this may sound like a cop out answer, right? But realistically, I'm gonna hold up my hands up, right, and say that that's an answer that mankind will probably be asking for many years. Because I'm gonna be real. Like,
Mhm.
for me to try to provide an answer to that, we'll be like trying to say that, feel like I have all the answers and get into this mind of God, right? And not to just brush it under the carpet with some scripture. It's because the Bible clearly says, like, God's thoughts are not our thoughts, right?
Mhm.
And the way one of the author ends this chapter, one of the things, because he doesn't even he doesn't go and give a clear cut black and white answer. He just says, God, who knows the bigger picture and painstakingly involves us in it, we may not understand, but we can see enough to know we need to follow. And he's trying to get to the point that God has a full picture. He doesn't need us to do all these things, right? But because he wants us to be, he's like a parent who wants you. He wants you to be involved, right, in his overall plan.
Mhm.
And I feel like sometimes, if God appeared to people, right? People, let's say God, they're like, nah, that can't be it. Who is it easier to believe? Somebody who has gone through a similar experience, and you can see them face to face, right?
Uh-huh.
Or some supernatural thing. If something supernatural happened, and you try to tell somebody else, they'll be like, yeah, we need to take this person to a hospital. There's something wrong with them. But so the author, and it's a question, it's an answer, it's something that even I've always asked myself. Even the author there is just pointing it down to this fact that in these instances, realistically, God can look irrational. He can look irrational, asking you to do something that not only it may be there for the benefit of you as a person, right? Well, you may look at it, but in the short term, it may be detrimental to your family, to your friends, and so on. Your kids may, like you said, may end up growing up and say, "Look, my dad abandoned me." Let's say this father goes and goes to North Korea and doesn't come back. The daughter might be asking herself, "Yeah, my dad abandoned me. He went and never came back, even though he knew he was going to be in danger." And I think in that scenario, real honestly speaking, God does come across as irrational. Like, and I'm
It-
emphasize comes across from our perception. He
Yeah.
comes across as irrational.
Because I like the fact that you used irrational, because to be honest, that's what it does come across as to an outsider. It's essentially trying to explain. I think going back to the whole paradox that God that has everything that requires that has everything but requires you to surrender everything to Him. I think, am I saying right? A God that needs nothing but requires everything from you. And that, if you're to put that into a person right now, having a person that, has everything, needs nothing but requires everything from you, you think like this person is a narcissist. It's like, why do you need me to do all this back-breaking work when you are not gaining anything from it because you already have what you need? And it's that thought of, how do I rationalize that in my, let's say, human understanding? Maybe it's what you say, we cannot rationalize it. It doesn't make sense. But I have to believe that at some point it makes sense. Because some people, I think, may die without even seeing the full picture of it all. And where does their salvation play in that?